shot. Robinson to the front court, running three-pointer, good!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of Gold School Retro NBA, episode 34. Join me, your host, Ari Hoops 84, as I go down the memory lane and talk about one of the best small forwards I've ever seen in the 90s that's not really talked about a lot. I'm talking about the man out of Gary, Indiana, Glenn Robinson, a.k.a. Big Dog, a.k.a. The Chosen One. Before I start this episode, when I talk about Glenn Big Dog Robinson, I want to give a shout out to a special friend of mine, Nick's Homer. And you guys can visit his website. I'm going to put the link below. Garden of Angels. He makes, if you guys don't know him, you can follow him on Twitter. He has phenomenal merch, especially a Knick fan. I have one on right now, as you guys can see. And you guys can use my code GOLD, capital in all letters, GOLD, and it'll be 10% off your purchase. All right, so let's get into it. Now, man, where do I start, man? Glenn Robinson, if you guys don't know, man, he was a very good small forward for the Milwaukee Bucks, was a Purdue basketball legend, and a Gary, Indiana basketball legend. This man was known for his insane shooting skills, especially marksmanship. He could hit the mid-range, and he could shoot the three-ball well. But not only was he a scorer, this guy could pass the ball. He was a very good kleptomaniac. He was a very good on-ball perimeter defender. And he could do a lot of different things. He can also rebound too, man. This guy was a very good rebounder at the three position. And I love this game, man. I just love the way he played, the way he just had that dog in him. And there's a reason why they called him Big Dog, because that's how he played. He played like a dog, and you know he took a lot of his teams through high school, college, and the pro era, man. He actually was a big mentor of one of my favorite shooting guards that I'll be talking about in a future episode, Ray Allen. And he's just a phenomenal basketball player, man. And if you guys haven't watched him, man, I suggest you stay tuned and listen to all the facts I'm going to drop on you guys and all the jewels I'm going to give you guys. Robinson grew up in Gary, Indiana, where he played his basketball. He started in the 9th grade, but due to him academically not doing good with his grades, his mother pulled him out. He was raised by his mother, Christine Bridgman. He would go on to play for Theodore Roosevelt High School. And in the 9th grade, that's when he started playing his professional basketball organizationally, where he would go on to play for the ISHSAA sectional team, and he would actually win a state title. And get this, guys, in 1991, he would win the national state title with the Panthers. And not only was it an iconic high school basketball game, it was against another NBA player, Allen Henderson, where he would defeat them to win that title. It was against Beirut Jesus. The iconic matchup was featured in a film called The Road to Indianapolis, and Indiana basketball's top 20 most dominant basketball players. As you guys know, Indiana's a very good basketball town. I mean, they breed a lot of great basketball players. And not only was Glenn Robinson tearing it down at the high school ranks, he actually won Mr. Indiana basketball in 1991. Just taking home accolade after accolade, because that's the true baller he was, and that's why his name was Big Dog. And it's a very iconic award because it's been around since 1939. And also that same year, man, he was featured in the All-American game, which is the top high school players, with another all-time great that I'll be talking about in a future episode, my man C-Web, Chris Webber. And get this, not only would he win that, would he featured in that high school game, he would also win the Dapper Don Classic MVP. That man, Big Dog, was a problem, man. And upon completion of his high school career, he would go on to be recruited by the Purdue Boilermakers under head coach Gene Keady, where he would play his college basketball. And get this, he actually got his nickname from the school custodian, who, well, mind you, he never played a basketball game yet for Purdue, and he gave him the nickname Big Dog before he even stepped foot on the court to play a real game. That goes to show you, man, the potential that a lot of people saw in Big Dog Robinson. This would proceed Glenn Big Dog Robinson to get an actual tattoo on his chest with a snarling bulldog with a spiked collar around his neck. But unfortunately, in his freshman season, he would have to redshirt due to Proposition 48 and not meeting academic standards. Glenn would also work as a welder in the summer at Purdue. The following season, Robinson would become eligible in his sophomore year to play basketball. And in his first season, he didn't take no shorts, man. This guy came out there and then put up 24 points per game and 9 boards, showing all the potential and what he was worth, Mr. Indiana basketball. This guy was a true hooper, man. Eventually leading the Boilermakers to an 18-10 record and an NCAA tournament bid. He would also go on to receive first team All-Big Ten and second team All-American honors. And during his junior year, he would up those averages of 30 points per game and 11 boards. Not only that, he would also be the first player since 1978 to lead in both categories in the Big Ten. Amazing feat by Big Dog Robinson. Along with teammates Quazzo Martin and Matt Waddle, he would lead the Boilermakers to a Big Ten conference title and an Elite Eight appearance. Just blazing into the college basketball ranks because that program was turned around due to the phenomenal play of Glenn Big Dog Robinson. They would finish with a 29-5 record and a third overall national ranking. Upon the NCAA tournament, he would bump into another legend, a Grant Hill-led Duke team, where he was held to a career-low 13 points and he was stifled by the Duke Blue Devils defense. And I remember that game very vividly because prior to that, they had faced Kansas, and I remember Glenn Robinson had suffered a back strain, and then you could tell he was kind of limited with his mobility. So I think somewhat that played into a factor into his performance against Duke. And this was no disrespect to Duke, because Duke was a powerhouse in its own at that time, especially being led by Grant Hill. And Robinson, not only to add to his impressive feat, he would end up finishing that year with 1,304 points while leading the nation in scoring, while also being selected Big Ten Conference Player of the Year. Shout outs to Glenn, man. I mean, that man was just balling. And knocking down feat after feat, he actually accomplished 2 more things. He won the Naismith Award and he won the John Wooden Award. He will become the first player to do so, actually the first Boilermaker to do so, since John Wooden in 1932. And get this, man, ironically, fate will have it, he wore the same number as Glenn Robinson, number 13. Crazy how it works itself out, man. Knocking down award after award, he would get another award under his belt. He would win the USBWA College Player of the Year. Robinson would leave the school after recording 1,000 points, 500 rebounds, 100 steals, 50 blocks, and 50 assists. Insanity, man. Not only was Robinson a great hooper, I mean, this man broke school records for bench pressing, 309 pounds. And I'm talking about clean lifts. That's insanity, man. I mean, that tells you how much of that man was getting physical, especially ready, prepared before the games. So he was just knocking down record after record, man. Just goes to show you, man, how phenomenal this guy was. And Robinson also was the 15th college player to ever record 1,000 points in a season. I mean, that man was a straight bucket getter. I mean, if you guys ever saw his form, man, his form was clean. And get this, another notch under his belt, he was actually named by the Big Ten Network, especially ranked number 35, as the most iconic players in Big Ten history. Crazy, man. Robinson was just knocking down award after award, man. It's amazing how this guy is not talked about still to this day, because he's one of the, not only in the college ranks, but the NBA level, man. This guy was just doing a lot of things and breaking records left and right. As his college career came to an end, he would take his talents to the NBA level, the highest of the low levels, and he would be one of the guys that was a part of one of the best drafts I've ever seen in 1994, being selected number 1 by the Milwaukee Bucks. And this draft also included Jason Kidd and Grant Hill, just to name a few, and a slew of other players that would make their name in the NBA. I love that draft. It's probably one of my favorite drafts ever. He was also the first Boilermaker to be selected number 1 in the NBA draft since 1980. The last one to do that was Joe Barry Carroll. And I remember very vividly that NBA draft, man, because I remember like the suits that they wore, and he had on this real this gold suit, and he had on these like alligator slip-on shoes, man. I thought it was real stylish, man. It was a really dope fit. And I remember when he got drafted, it was a stall in the contract works with Glenn Robinson's rookie contract. There was rumors that had it that he wanted up to upwards of $100 million, but he ended up settling for $68 million in a 10-year pact. And I think even to this day, he's still one of the highest paid rookies ever. And they actually changed the rules and put limits and caps on rookie contracts following that contract year, especially when he got drafted. So it's crazy, man. Like there's so many things that's attached to Glenn Robinson's name, man. And it just shows to show you, man. Like he did a lot of different things, man. It's one of the things that amazed me about Glenn Robinson's career. When he came into the league, man, his rookie season, he was taking on awards left and right, just like he did in the high school and the college ranks. He took home the Rookie of the Month twice, the Schick Rookie of the Month. Also that year, he would take home All-Rookie First Team honors. And the three guys that I talked about before in that draft, they were up against competition because when it came to the Rookie of the Year award, he was up against Grant Hill and Jason Kidd. But remember, out of all the rookies, and there was really good rookies in that season, he was the one that led them out in scoring with 21 points per game. And he would come third, finishing behind Grant Hill and Jason Kidd, who shared the Rookie of the Year award that season. I remember I picked up a copy of Basketball Digest, which I used to read a lot when I was younger, and they named him Rookie of the Year. Following season, he would be joined in the front court with another powerhouse power forward that would share the front court with him, and Vin Baker, who I'll be talking about in a future episode. And those two together, man, they were a dynamic duo, man. I knew they had something brewing in Milwaukee. On December 7, 1996, he would record his career high with 44 points against the Washington Bullets. And guess what? He did this on straight efficiency, shooting 70% from the field. And I remember watching that game because not only was he scoring, he did way more than that. He had 7 boards and 6 assists to go along with that. Goes to show you how much of a complete team game that Glenn Robinson played. But despite Robinson's statistical accomplishments, the Bucks unfortunately would miss the playoffs once again. The following season, they would break up the front court, and Vin Baker would be dealt to Seattle. In return, the Bucks would get Sam Cassell and Ray Allen. And I remember seeing that trade, man, and I loved it because I love Sam Cassell from his early days in Houston, and I love Ray Allen just as well, because both of them were just fun to watch, and I know they had a ton of potential, and I know the Bucks team they were putting together a real special team, and I saw it coming. And due to the wealth of talent that was being spread around the Bucks between Sam Cassell, Ray Allen, and Glenn Robinson, they catapulted the Bucks to several playoff berths. And that season, they would face the Reggie Miller-led Pacers. Unfortunately, they would lose by a point. And in that final showing, Glenn Robinson scored 23 points and pulled down 12 boards. Unfortunately, they went down because I felt like they were a really young team, and I know him and Ray Allen were pretty much inexperienced when it came to the postseason. And I think that had a part of them losing that series. I think that was one of the major reasons for them losing that series. And on February 25th, 2001, Glenn Robinson would attach another feat to his belt. He would score his career high 45 points in a win versus the Golden State Warriors. Remember that 2001 Bucks team was a problem. And they would go up against a powerhouse. And these guys would make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Allen Iverson-led Philadelphia 76ers. Unfortunately, the 76ers were too much and they would lose in 7 games to Philadelphia. And I remember in that final game, man, he had 24 points, 7 boards, and 4 assists. He gave it his all, man. He basically bled his heart on the court. But Philadelphia, it was just their time in their year, and they ended up going to the finals. And this was the first time that the Milwaukee Bucks actually got to the conference finals in a very long time. But recent history, in 2019, Giannis Antetokounmpo snapped that 18-year streak of them not reaching the conference finals. And up until recently, he was the second all-time scoring in Bucks history until Giannis surpassed him. And guess who he was behind? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So for him to be in that name and that company, especially in Bucks history, which had a lot of great players come through there throughout the years, pretty dope feat. And Mr. Buckets, Glenn Big Dog Robinson, 7 out of the 8 years that he played for Milwaukee, he averaged 20 or more points per game. Mr. Bucket, man. And he would also end up being a 2-time All-Star in consecutive years in 2000 and 2001. The following season, he would be traded to the Atlanta Hawks for Tony Kukoc, Leon Smith, and a first-round pick in 2003, ending, which was a great career with the Milwaukee Bucks for Glenn Big Dog Robinson. His debut with the Atlanta Hawks, he stopped right where he left off with Milwaukee. He scored 34 points, pulled down 10 boards, and dished out 8 dimes against the New Jersey Nets. And his first season with them, and only season with the Hawks, he scored 20 points per game, and he shot a career best 87% from the free throw line. Following that season, he would be traded to the Philadelphia 76ers, involved in a 4-team deal, where he would be a second option right next to another all-time great and one of my favorite players, especially as a Georgetown fan. And I did a couple of tributes for, personal and college tribute for, Allen A.I. the Answer Iverson. And during that one and only year with the Philadelphia 76ers, he would average 16 points per game and 1 steal. The following season, unfortunately, Glenn Robinson would be marred by injuries and would not appear in the game for the Philadelphia 76ers. He would then be traded to the New Orleans Hornets and would not appear in the game for them, would be waived briefly after the trade. And in 2005, he was signed with a very, very iconic Spurs team that actually won the title. The Spurs were looking for veteran shooting, and they actually found it in Glenn Robinson, and he became a part of the team's success, where he stood with the Spurs and won his first title. Unfortunately, due to nagging knee injuries, that would be his final game after winning the title with the Spurs, where he would retire from the game of basketball. He would finish with career totals of 14,234 points, averaging 20 points per game, 2 All-Star appearances, 6 rebounds a game, 2 assists, and 1 steal. A phenomenal career for Glenn Big Dog Robinson, aka the Chosen One. Upon his retiring, he had children, and guess what? Glenn Robinson III followed in his footsteps, played his college ball at the University of Michigan, where he was an all-conference selection and an all-freshman honoree, following in the footsteps of his father, man. And he actually played in the NBA and won the Slam Dunk Contest in 2017 with the Indiana Pacers, and up until recently played for the Sacramento Kings. His younger son, Jalen, followed in his athletic footsteps, albeit in another journey with wrestling, where he won the Indiana Wrestling Championship. And he actually followed in his footsteps and played for Purdue football team. And all the siblings, even his daughter Jamie, she ran track and field and played college at the high school level, and has took down numerous awards on that level. And just to go to show you, man, like, just it's in the genes. Athleticism is in the genes, man. And me personally, I enjoyed this episode talking about it with you guys because I love Glenn Robinson. He was one of my favorite non-Knicks, of all time. I compared him a lot to the similarities that him and Carmelo Anthony, another guy I'll be doing a future episode about, one of my favorite Knicks all time. And they had a lot of similarities, the way they played the game, the way they rebounded. The only thing I give Glenn Robinson the edge on is that he was a better defender than Carmelo. But they both have a lot of similarities, man. Their games, really watch it too, man. And I want to thank everyone for enjoying this episode of Go School Retro NBA, episode 34. I'm your host, Ari Hoops. Going to be doing a lot more episodes in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed Glenn Robinson, a.k.a. Big Dog, a.k.a. the Chosen One. Thank you all for tuning in. If you guys haven't, hit that like button, subscribe button, share it with your friends and family that like to take a trip down memory lane in the retro Go School era of hoops. Thank you all. And like I said before, you guys can cop your Knick merch from my man Homer, Knicks Homer. He runs a website, Guardian of Angels. Use my promo code GOLD. Capital G, capital O, capital L, capital D. GOLD. And at your checkout, man. Use that as a discount on your final purchases. Thank you all for tuning in to Go School Retro NBA. I'm your host, Ari Hoops, and I'm signing off. Thank you guys. One love.